Hi there, welcome to this special video that we're filming just in reaction to the budget. I didn't film an end of month update because I was quite keen to wait until the news had come out today to see what was in store for us in Rachel Reeves' latest announcements. It's been an interesting few weeks because actually when we look at the market overall, just as a bit of a backdrop, we've definitely seen the uncertainty of the budget, and I've never really known it to be so uncertain in the run into a budget. This kind of like date that was then changed and moved, it just creates this feeling of we don't know what's coming, we don't know what's going to happen, and actually we've seen that translate into the way the market has behaved. So the number of new listings coming into the whole of the market that we cover, about 15% down on where it was this time last year, and actually quite frustrating in a way because the number of sales that we're agreeing as a percentage of property that we've got currently available on the market still very good, still tracking against where we've been earlier in the year. So the demand side has still been there, but unfortunately the uncertainty that's been created in the run up to this budget not been great. And so I'm pleased that today we've finally got to hear exactly what's coming and exactly what's going to change. And there were two big headlines, I think, that directly relate to the property market. There's obviously lots and lots of other stuff in the budget as well, not for me to necessarily go and pick through that. But let's just cover off the two main changes that we've seen today. So the first one, probably the big headline grabbing one, is the introduction of this mansion tax. So this is a tax that's going to be introduced on all properties that have a value of over £2 million. They're going to go out and try and value property in some way over the next few years in the run into this tax being introduced in 2028. Apparently properties above £2 million will pay £2,500 in an extra surcharge on council tax, all the way up to properties above £5 million that will pay an additional £7,500. So what do we make of this tax? Well, I can put two heads on. I can put the property across the country head on, or I can put the property in the north of England head on, which is really where most of our attention lays. First of all, before I cover that one, across the whole country, I don't think it's great. I think in the end, it's likely to create a little bit of uncertainty, particularly at the higher ends of the market. It's going to create some cliff edges around certain price bandings, and we're going to see that as these bandings come to fruition as we get to hear more about them. If we think about the north of England, I'm just going to read some stats out to you here just to give you a snapshot. Right? So across Yorkshire and the Humberside, over the course of this year, so far, so from January to November, we've seen just under 66,000 property transactions complete. So you want to take a guess, how many of those property transactions were above £2 million? I'll pause for a moment while you have a guess, okay? It was 48. So a very, very small percentage of our market is actually in that part of the price banding. That, of course, this is just property sales. This isn't the whole of the market, but it's just giving you a little bit of a snapshot of actually, for the north of England, this new tax probably isn't going to affect the vast majority of property transactions. As time goes on, as property prices rise, of course, that will likely change, especially if they don't shift those bandings, which I suspect they won't. But for now, it will have a very limited impact on the north of England. Be interesting to see how it affects some of the rest of the other parts of the country, particularly for those who've been living in properties for a long time in the south of England and have seen the value of them increase. They might not have the extra money to pay out in that surcharge. They may be forced to move. It might even bring some more property to market. We will see in due course, but overall, I don't think a huge change. The second change that happened, and the one which I suppose was a little bit unexpected, was the 2% increase on tax that you pay on property and savings income as well as dividends as well. There was a lot of speculation in the run-up to this budget that the Chancellor might start playing around with things like national insurance contributions on income that we earn from rental properties. Really pleased that she's not gone down that road. So this other tax, probably the lesser of two evils. It's not great though, is it really? Let's think about all the impacts of changes that landlords have seen over the past few years. Property taxation changes, increase in compliance, increased borrowing costs. Of course, we're just having renters reform, which is now coming into being. So this is just another little kick for those people who hold property in personal names especially. And I don't think necessarily is going to be a great thing overall. I think for some who are already thinking about selling because of renters reform and other impacts, it might just push them over the edge. And of course, when we see changes like this, in doing that, all it's going to do is reduce the amount of rental property there is in the market, push prices up for those who are thinking about renting. So overall, not a great change, but again, one which, as I said, probably the lesser of evils that we could have had in this budget. So overall, that's my summary of the two big changes that we've seen and a bit of a summary of where I think the market's up to right now. Keep in touch. I'm going to film an update as we approach the end of the year just to tell you how the year of 2025 has finished. And as always, give me a shout if you've got any questions. And if you're thinking about making that next move, we're available 8 a.m. till 8 p.m, 7 days a week. We'd love to talk to you. Thanks so much for watching.